Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the MMA Corner wrap-up. As tonight we come at you live on the heels of Bellator 120, Rampage versus Mo Lawal. Uh, I don't know what to say about the show, but before we get started, as always, this episode is brought to you by Battlebomb, the only pain reliever with the knockout power. www.battlebomb.com. Check them out. Audio for tonight's episode is powered by Soul. Power, clarity, comfort. So electronics, get you some. I'm your host for the evening, Josh Davis, alongside Jason Shelkey, feature columnist at the MMAcorner.com. I don't know where to start, Jason. It's Bellator's first ever pay-per-view. Uh, I don't know. It's pretty much exactly what you would expect from their first pay-per-view. But top to bottom, the fight card, I'll give it a solid B, B plus. It wasn't the best event that Bellator has ever put on by any stretch of the means, but it was a solid event. It was a good way to get swimming in the pay-per-view water, so to speak. But give us your thoughts. Break it down.
You know, it definitely wasn't Bellator's worst event, but I wouldn't call it one of their best events either. Um, but for a first pay-per-view outing, you have to expect that they're going to have hiccups, that there's going to be, production problems. There's going to be just unexpected things going on that you're just not used to because you're doing a first shot at pay-per-view. So you know, for the under the circumstances, I thought it was a solid show. I'm sure that in the future, their pay-per-views will be, the production value will be better, the pacing will be better. But for the first outing, you really can't knock them. I mean, I think they did a pretty good job.
Well, and I certainly don't want to compare this to the first ever UFC, which I was at cage side for. Uh, Honestly, the first ever UFC event, there was maybe 500, 600 people, definitely less than 1,000. There was not that many people in there at all. It was at McNichols Arena, which was a small venue that the Nuggets used to play in back in the day. Anyways, watching that event, uh, kind of very similar to what Bellator did today. The pace was slow. Again, it was just a little offward, not the same as what we're used to seeing with Bellator on Spike TV. However, with that being said, you know, I think a big part of it is you have to fill certain amounts of time because you don't have commercials and all of that kind of stuff. So, with just the overall production, I think they did the best that they could. I'm sure they'll go back and look at things and see what they can do better for their next pay-per-view event. But again, for their first one, I'm I certainly don't want to knock them. I think they did very well. I think it came across very well. Again, there were a couple times that were just, slow, awkward, but it is whatever. All in all, again, I think they did very well for their first ever pay per view. I think Bjorn and the team over at Viacom uh, put together a good show for the fans. They did the best they could losing Eddie Alvarez and still piecing this card together. And the people that didn't get to watch it, they certainly missed out on some great fights. Now, speaking of great fights, let's get right into it. We are going to break down the main card. Uh, Obviously, the prelims and everything like that were televised on Spike TV, so hopefully you were able to catch those. Main card started off with Michael Page versus Rick Rainey. Uh, it's tough. It's you know I have to turn on my brain to mouth filter here because what I really want to say I can't because it's just first off it's not professional and second off it's really not cool. But I will say this: I'm never a fan of showboating when it comes to fighting because first off, well, not just fighting. I'm never a fan of showboating when it comes to any kind of sports unless that sport is showboating. Uh, you completely disrespect the sport, you disrespect your opponent, you disrespect your opponent's team and all of his training partners and his coaches when you do that kind of stuff. It's not cool. It's not cool when Anderson Silva did it. It's not cool tonight when Michael Page did it. Now, he did get the victory, and honestly, he made Ricky Rainey look completely silly. And going into this card, this is one of the fights that I was excited about. I really did think that these guys would put together fireworks, and obviously, Rainey was completely outclassed. He didn't have any kind of answer for Page's style. And like I said, Page was in there dancing around, doing the UTEP two-step, showboating, this, that, and the other. But he did get the TKO victory, and when he wasn't showboating and dancing, he did look good doing it. And I'll be honest, I do want to see more of this kid because he does have a lot of potential, and his style of fighting that he brings to the table is certainly something that a lot of fighters over here don't get to see. And so he's going to give a lot of people fits. He just needs to cut out that showboating crap because there's really no place for it. Shelky, give us your thoughts.
Well, before I get started, because people couldn't see this that are watching, but before Josh started talking, me and him, we just kind of like we had like mental telepathy going on because we're both thinking the same exact thing there. I mean, Paige, he looks spectacular, but he was fortunate enough that he had an opponent in front of him that allowed him to have his hands down by his knees the whole entire fight. I guess, is the polite way of putting it. Um, I've seen footage on him before, and he was, looked very impressive. But for him to come in like that, well, I would just like to see how he would fare in the upcoming lightweight tournament. Let's stick him in there. Let's see how he does, and then we'll see if he's really all that he's hyped up to be.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's throw him in that tournament and see exactly what's up with him. I do think he's got a lot of potential. He certainly has a lot of skills. So his talent is not questioned. It's just, come on, dude, don't do that crap in the ring. There's no call for it. Go in there, get your victory. If you want to celebrate after the victory, that's fine. But you don't do that stuff inside the octagon. And again, if you do it against the upper echelon, they're going to make you pay for it, and that'll be that. But I do want to see more of this kid, and I would love to see him in the upcoming lightweight tournament, see what he truly has to offer. All right, moving right along, heavyweight tournament finale. Alexander Volkov versus Blogi Ivanov. Well, why don't you start us off on this one, Jason?
This fight didn't go how I expected at all. If you would have told me that it would have end, first round rear naked choke, I would have told you you're crazy. I would have thought these guys were going to stand there, they were going to bang it out, they were going to do something. From a fan's, perspective, I was pulling for Ivanov just because, I mean, how can you not pull for the guy with his story of being in the coma for 3 months and then, coming back and fighting a year and a half later, and just it just didn't play out how I thought it would. But, Volkov did look really good. I mean, 6'7", 235, so he's a beanpole. Didn't really use his size and reach all that much during the fight, which kind of disappointed me. He let Egimov get in the inside really, really, really easily, which I think will hamper him down the road once he starts fighting, tougher competition within the division. But, I guess we'll get to see whenever he gets his title shot if he has what it takes to be the champion. But I'm not. But for what I saw tonight, I don't know if that's the case.
Well, I think he's still got a lot of work to do, and his body type is interesting because he could probably drop down to light heavyweight because in all actuality he's not any bigger than John Jones. So he certainly possibly could do that. Now, another fighter that I will bring up is Stefan Struve, who will be returning to the UFC here shortly. But anyways, when he, debuted 6'11", 228 pounds, I mean, he was a beanpole is the great way to describe him, as you said, Jason. So there is a place for his body type in the heavyweight division. We've seen guys do it, but if he's not going to pack on some serious muscle, he's going to struggle against again the true the truly elite in the heavyweight division. But he did look good tonight. And as you said, obviously, I think every fan was rooting for Ivanov. How do you not love that guy's story? I mean, the things that he's done. I mean, it's insane. Everything he's been through. So, a great story. But tonight he just got beat by the better fighter. Volkov was able to do the things that he wanted to do. And obviously was able to get the submission and the upcoming title shot that goes with being the heavyweight tournament champion. I do think he's got his work cut out for him, though. He's got to do some things. He's got a lot of growing to do before he truly reaches that elite status. But to be honest, I would, for the one round and minute and 8 seconds into the second round that fight went, it was decent. I was pleased with what both of those guys brought to the table, and I look forward to seeing more from each one of them. All right, moving on. Again, Jason, I'll probably let you start off on this one. Tito Ortiz versus Alexander Shlemenko. Give us your thoughts.
This was a no-win situation for Alexander Shlemenko. Number one, I don't know why they put their middleweight champion, who could easily fight at welterweight, and make him eat all those ice cream sandwiches just to make 202 pounds, to fight Tito Ortiz, who, as Jimmy Smith so aptly put it, his head can make middleweight. I mean, because if he wins the fight, he beats up a washed-up former UFC lightweight champion that's only won one fight since 2006, or he loses the fight, which is the case, and he lost to a washed-up Tito Ortiz, who's only won one fight since 2006. So there was going to be no positive outcome of this fight for Shlemenko, no matter what happened. And so I question. I mean, I got it from all accounts. Shlemenko wanted this fight, and I give props to him for stepping up and fighting Tito Ortiz. But I question this fight being put together in the first place, because it was a lose-lose. I know that they need to find somebody for Tito to fight, because Bellator has a lot of money invested in this guy. They need to get some return on their investment, and I understand all that. But just number one, I don't think this fight should have ever happened in the first place. Question Shlemenko's people. But congratulations to Tito Ortiz. He beat a middleweight, I guess. And then the whole his whole Hulk Hogan rant. Oh my god, that post-fight rant was just glorious. That's all I can say about it.
Well, a couple of things. I agree this fight never should have been made, and I've stated that numerous times on the numerous shows that we do on the MMAcorner.com. With that being said, really, what was Bellator supposed to do? Shlemenko did ask for the fight. If you look at Bellator's roster, they have less than 20 light heavyweights total on the roster. So there's not a whole lot of guys to choose from. And here's the thing. If Tito did pull out of the fight, which, like myself, many of us thought he was going to do, you're really not losing anything. You're not wasting the fight, because now Shlemenko could go back and train to defend this title. Now that the fight actually happened, this was, really what was expected. Shlemenko's not even the middleweight. He's a welterweight. I love Shlemenko. I think he's one of the more underrated fighters in all of MMA. However, let's say he was in the UFC. He's not going to be competitive at middleweight. He would have to drop to welterweight to be competitive, in which case I think he would be very competitive. But you're looking at a true 170-pound fighter against, a guy who really, if he wanted to, could be fighting heavyweight. And while the fight was on the feet, Shlemenko was definitely hurting him with the body shots. He was able to do what he wanted. It wasn't until, Tito was able to truly grab a hold of him and get him to the ground. And then it was just a bully job. It would be, like my older brother fighting me. I mean, the guy's 3 times my size. Once he gets me to the ground, you just can't deal with that size and strength. And so really the fight went exactly how most people thought it would go. But uh, do I think this fight hurts Shlemenko? No. I mean, come on. Yeah, Tito is washed up, but again, uh, when you, all things considered, uh, the guy was eating ice cream sandwiches, as somebody posted on Twitter, uh, just to make that weight. So it is what it is. It was a uh, you know a, I don't know, like you said, a no-win situation for all parties involved. But Tito had to get a fight to get back in there. They gave him someone. They gave him a name, so to speak, but still someone that Tito should be able to beat and get his confidence back and all of that kind of stuff. And that's what happened. And then this post-fight rant. First off, Tito, you're not back. Fight a true light heavyweight. Anyone. I'm not even talking a top 10 guy. Just fight a true light heavyweight. Any true light heavyweight. Get that victory. Then tell me that you might be back. Because right now, again, you're old and washed up. Are you going to fight a lightweight next and tell me that you should get a title shot after that victory? I mean, come on. It's great that you worked hard and you came back from all those injuries and all that kind of stuff to beat up someone who was half your size. You know who else works hard and come back from injuries like that? Professional football players, professional baseball players, professional basketball players, pretty much any professional athlete whatsoever. So cool your jets, keep crap in perspective. But, keep inspiring, keep being inspired to inspire. I think that's great. That should probably be on your next Punishment Athletics t-shirt. It would probably sell a whole lot. All right, moving right along. Uh, I don't know about this one. Will Brooks versus Michael Chandler. Great fight. Uh, Back and forth. Obviously, Chandler came out, got the first 2 rounds. There's no question about that. Then something clicked within Will Brooks. He came out, got rounds got rounds 3 and 4 clearly, and then fifth round. I guess that's really the question. Who did you give that final round to? I personally gave it to Chandler. I thought that Chandler did enough to win the fight. I didn't think that Will Brooks deserved the 10-8 round, while he was dominant in that third round, but I didn't think that it was worthy of the 10-8. Uh, I did think Chandler won the first two and then got the fifth round. I thought he should have been victorious. But with that being said, it was a great fight. Uh, Will Brooks, when he decided to turn it on, those 2 rounds, he really put it on Chandler and kind of broke his spirits. And then in the third round or in the fifth round, Chandler, I thought did enough to win. But again, I'm not a judge. It doesn't matter. Regardless, it was an excellent fight. And I will say this: I do look forward to Will Brooks versus Eddie Chandler. I think that's going to be an exciting fight. Again, styles make fight, and Will's going to be a bigger, much stronger fighter. He's probably going to be the better athlete. So, how does Eddie win this fight? It's going to be interesting to see. Uh, I do look forward to it. But Jason, give us your thoughts.
Well, I do agree with you. I think it was a tremendous fight. I mean, both guys went out there, they put it on, they put on a good show. They both worked to their strengths. Now, where I do disagree with you with is on the decision. I thought that 10-8 was, that the third round was a textbook 10-8 round. Because Brooks had Chandler hurt. He almost had him finished. I mean, it was complete domination for him in that third. And that's the textbook definition of a 10-8 round in my mind. Because I had the fight a draw. Because I gave Chandler the first, second, and fifth, and then gave Brooks a 10-8 in the third, and gave him the fourth. So, of course, I mean, people are going to look at the fight in different ways. I mean, Twitter's reaction to it, they were, all over the place. People had for Chandler, people had for Brooks, draw. I mean, it could be interpreted so many different ways that I can't be mad about the decision. Brooks put on a hell of a performance, and he's going to give Alvarez a really, really good fight. Although I am kind of disappointed that we don't get to see Alvarez Chandler 3 now. Well, not yet anyway. We may see it down the road, but like you said, Brooks and Alvarez is going to be a great, great fight to watch, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be a great fight to watch. And again, I am looking forward to it. As far as the 10-8 round goes, I think that's opinionated. There's not really, in boxing, it's clear. You get the knockdown, it's a 10-8 round. Pretty simple. And MMA, there's not any clear guidelines, rules, whatever definitions of how 10-8 round. I think it's subjective, and guys get dominated in rounds all the time. I think that was a standard ass whooping that he dished out in that round, and to me it was a 10-9 round. Yeah, he had him hurt and had his whole head purple and that kind of stuff, but it was a 10-9 round. To me a 10-8 round was Gray Maynard versus Frankie Edgar. That first round in the second fight, Maynard dropped him 3 times, beat the crap out of him. And that was a true 10-8 round. What Will Brooks did wasn't even close. So that's why I scored it at 10-9. But again, it's subjective. It's opinionated. So I'm certainly not going to argue with anyone who had a 10-8 on that, because I can easily see why you would score it that way. But again, this is why we're not judges. We're just media guys, and it is what it is. Will Brooks got the split decision victory, and he will be the one moving on to face Eddie Alvarez. Now, what will be very interesting is to see whether or not Bellator tries to push that for their next pay-per-view event. I'm interested to see what they do with that. All right, moving right along. Main event, Mo Lawal, Rampage Jackson. Jason, start us off.
King Mo got screwed. I mean, plain and simple. He clearly won 2 out of the 3 rounds. I don't know how any judge could see it any other way. Yeah, I mean, I really don't have much to say about it. I mean, because I thought, we talked about this, and you said exactly what happened. King Mo is going to use his wrestling. He's going to hug him. He's going to keep him on the ground, and he's going to frustrate Rampage, and that's what he did. And I thought he did a good job of avoiding Rampage's punches when he did. I mean, he did get clocked a couple times, but he was never put in a situation where Rampage could pounce to get the finish. So, I mean, I thought that it was clearly 29-28 for King Mo. I think he had, I don't some people thought it was a shoot after the fight of him going, calling out Rebney a bunch of things I'm not going to say. But even if it was true, I don't blame him one bit for being mad, because that was in my mind, a really, really bad decision. And I think he did get robbed badly.
All right, first off, a couple of things actually. But first off, if you do feel that way, you say things behind closed doors. You don't openly rant and rave and act like a complete jackass like King Mo did. And if you're going to be mad at the judges, then be mad at the judges, unless you truly think some of the things actually did happen that you were trying to say happened. And if that's the case, then the whole sport is in complete shambles. So keep that stuff to yourself. You say it privately. You don't say it on camera in front of hundreds of thousands of people and that kind of stuff. That's terrible. That's unprofessional. That's part of why you were released from the UFC, because you just don't get it. You need to wake up and have a little bit of professionalism. And I understand you're an entertainer and you're an athlete and all that kind of stuff, and you're not a role model. But that wasn't entertaining. That was dumb. You didn't need to do that. You could have had those conversations privately. Now, with that being said, did he get screwed? Probably. I tweeted out that I certainly thought that he did enough in that third round to get the victory as far as scoring goes. But he didn't come to fight. He came to run around and dance and wrestle and dry hump somebody to specifically win a decision. But he certainly didn't come to fight. And at the end of the day, this is still fighting. That is the object, and you have to take that into consideration a little bit. Now, third round is the questionable round here. King Mo got the takedown, controlled a little bit, controlled position for a little bit, but Rampage did work his way back to his feet, stuffed a couple of takedowns. What limited standing, engaging there was, Rampage did get the better of. Uh, did he win the round? No, no. But Memphis, it's his home state. Today's Rampage Day and all that kind of stuff. Uh, King Mo needed to go out and finish Rampage, I think, or truly, dominate the fight to win the decision, and he didn't do that. So he got nobody for the way things played out. But again, it'll be interesting to see what Bellator does with that. If they do release him, if they do a rematch between Rampage and Mo and that kind of stuff. But uh, it, again, keep some of those comments to yourself. All right. That is pretty much going to do it for this episode of the MMA Corner wrap up. Jason, give us your final thoughts.
Final thoughts. First off, if anybody has any family in the Southern California area, I hope they're all well and safe and away from all those crazy fires. Um, you know, I really liked the event. I think some of the stuff went way over the top. I think, for people watching that, may have been watching with their kids, some of the stuff may have been questionable. I think you know, maybe next time tone down on the pro wrestling antics maybe a little bit. But, other than that, it was a good night of fights all the way around, from the undercard all the way up. It wasn't spectacular, it wasn't bad, but it was a, just a solid, solid event.
Yeah, it was a solid event from top to bottom. Uh, Bellator put on a great performance for their first pay-per-view. Was it outstanding, spectacular? Everything was perfect? No, but again, this was their first pay per view. They've got some things to work on, but they'll go back to the tape and look at some things and determine, all right, this is what we need to do to get better, and it's a learning process. No one's ever perfect on their first try. So, with that being said, I thought Bellator did very well tonight. The fighters came to perform, and that's really what it's all about. It doesn't matter how good your production is on anything. If the fighters don't come to fight, then everything else is crap. And tonight, fighters came to fight. They look good. Bellator put on a great card. So, uh, I I don't ever want to pay for any fight, so I can't say I'm looking forward to another pay-per-view event from Bellator. But I am looking forward to more Bellator events. Obviously, they have plenty of them upcoming. Housekeeping notes, we will be back Thursday to give you breakdown and predictions for UFC 173, Barao versus Dillashaw. Then we will be back a week from tonight to break that fight down as well. In the meantime, for all of your latest and greatest and most up-to-date MMA news, definitely make sure you're checking out the MMAcorner.com. Follow all of the writers on Twitter, all of that kind of stuff. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow Jason on Twitter. Pretty simple. Uh, Again, this episode was brought to you by BattleBomb, the only pain reliever with the knockout power. BattleBomb.com. Check them out. Audio for tonight's episode was powered by Soul. Power, clarity, comfort. Soul Electronics. Get you some. I am Josh Davis for Jason Shelkey. Until next week, keep living the MMA Corner lifestyle. Peace.